Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day and that you've had a marvelous afternoon as well. Welcome to another edition of Red Pill News. First of all, today, we're going to be talking about President Trump's epic virtual body slam of MSDNC's Joe Scarborough this morning. Yes, he opened up the day with a tweet that very clearly let the world know exactly what Donald Trump thinks about Joe Scarborough. We're also going to be talking about the impending release of new documents from the ODNI and the Department of Justice. And then we've also got a report from someone at the Department of Justice who says that document tranche is not actually going to be revealed at all. What is going on? We've got the news here about it. Also, we have some clips from last night. Tucker Carlson confronted Trey Gowdy. I'm going to give you my thoughts on Trey Gowdy and what I think is going on. We've also got a clip from Joe Biden's appearance on Good Morning America earlier today. George Stephanopoulos asked about his knowledge of the Flynn investigation. He claimed to know nothing, and then once he was reminded that he was deeply involved in the first meeting regarding it, he kind of took a little backtrack. We've also got some information from Undercover Huber on the recently dismissed lawsuit of Lisa Page. And finally, we're going to be talking about John Solomon's coverage of Lindsey Graham's impending Senate hearings on the Flynn case itself. That should be coming in early June. So please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. I don't know about everyone, but during this lockdown, many people have started doing a lot of things differently. Their old lives, like a daily commute to the office, just aren't happening. Some of you, I'm sure, don't miss the drive that much. Talking to a lot of people on Zoom, of course, they feel the same way about many things, and they've been recommending apps and favorite TV shows or YouTube channels and other ways of making life better, or at least tolerable. And not just for now, but on an ongoing basis. If you've seen the returns on the stock market since the beginning of the year, since the virus hit, it's very clear that the old ways aren't working too well anymore. The Fed is having to prop up returns. It's pumped trillions of dollars into a system to try to avoid what looks like an inevitable collapse. You can't have 20% unemployment. That's over 26 million jobs. 26 million without massive fallout. You can't spend trillions bailing out businesses with no consequences. Something has to give, and it will. So we have a secure way to guard our wealth, our savings, and our investments. Gold, silver, palladium, and platinum have proven to be safe haven investments. It's the only investment with appreciating value during an economic collapse. If you're interested in securing your wealth, call Noble Gold Investment today at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347, or visit our website, noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we have this epic tweet from our president, real Donald Trump. It is in relation to Joe Scarborough from MSDNC and the troubles that he's had in relation to his former intern, Lori Klausutis. Now, Lori was found in Joe's office. She had apparently fainted and hit her head on the desk. But President Trump asks, when will they open a cold case on the psycho Joe Scarborough matter in Florida? Did he get away with murder? Some people think so. Why did he leave Congress so quickly and quietly? Isn't it obvious? What's happening now? A total nut job. Now, not only is President Trump pointing to Joe Scarborough's state of mind and perhaps why he would report in the way he does, but it seems to me that he clearly does believe that Joe Scarborough got away with something very, very big. And I'm sure that his friends in Congress at the time covered up for him. And it looks to me like President Trump is calling for an investigation into this cold case, whatever actually did happen to Lori Klausutis. This is something that definitely warrants a closer look. And now that we have a friendly in the office down there in the governorship of Florida, perhaps something might actually come about because of this. President Trump, keep asking those tough questions, and we will continue to help amplify them. Now, we are all well aware of the fact that acting DNI Rick Grenell dropped off that big bag of documents on Friday, a second batch of information which was supposed to be declassified. That was the whole point. The DNI takes the documents in. They see what needs to be unredacted, what can be released to the public, and then it gets dropped off at another office, which is the actual agency that's going to be doing the full release. Now, Kevin Corke is reporting that sources have told Fox News that the DOJ, who is the office to be releasing these documents, is going to soon reveal the names of the officials of the former administration who actually did the unmasking of General Flynn between Election Day and Inauguration Day. Apparently, there are 5 or 6 pieces of intel which have to be declassified in stages. This is just the first piece. But now we're getting a conflicting story coming from somebody else in the DOJ. Let's take a look. Now, from the Gateway Pundit, apparently a senior DOJ official has said that the Justice Department does not intend to release the unmasking list, which was delivered to the DOJ by Acting DNI Rick Grenell. Now, on Monday, Acting DNI Rick Grenell declassified this list of officials in the renegade administration who were involved in the unmasking of General Mike Flynn and his conversations with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. So I stand corrected. This is actually a third batch of documents that have been released by Grenell. We had 2 last week, and now apparently we have the list of those involved in the unmasking today. Grenell was seen delivering that satchel of documents last week, and apparently that's when he discussed putting out that list of officials from the renegade administration who were involved in the unmasking of Flynn. Now, the names of those officials who were involved in the calls have yet to be released, and today we've been waiting for it. But we've got this new report coming from someone within the DOJ who says that they are not going to be declassifying it. Now, we know that Renegade's former National Security Advisor Susan Rice was forced to acknowledge that she was one of those people who unmasked President Trump's senior advisors during that transition period. However, she's maintained that it wasn't politically motivated. And according to sources reporting to John Solomon, Renegade's former UN Ambassador Samantha Power also was involved in unmasking hundreds of additional Americans while Renegade was in his last year in office. Now, today, an ABC reporter named Alex Mallon has tweeted out that a senior DOJ official says we do not intend to release the unmasking list. And if that's true, then that is obviously an outrageous thing to say. This information is something we've been waiting on for quite some time, but there's a couple of things that could be happening here. Obviously, ABC is the fake news mainstream media. So whoever this individual Alex is talking to at the DOJ could be a holdover from the former administration. So they could be seeking to put out disinformation. Now, there's also the idea that perhaps they're not going to be releasing this information at this time because they do have a series of other pieces that go along with it, and maybe they want to put it all out at once. Or, however, this could be a head fake, and the information contained therein could be held onto until such a time that it's appropriate to release it to the public. Now, we did get some interesting video yesterday from our favorite Anon, and I think that it contains a couple of really good possibilities of who actually did that unmasking. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So back in 2017, Trey Gowdy was grilling Jim Comey on who had the ability to unmask American citizens. He was trying to narrow it down to a potential list of people and agencies that would have the ability to do this so that they could go and do the investigation and determine exactly who it was that leaked this information to the press. And we're talking about that initial report written by David Ignatius, the information, of course, being given first to Adam Enthouse and then passed on to Ignatius for that report in February of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, Trey Gowdy thinks that the quicker we can get to a list of people who could potentially have unmasked these names, the quicker we can get to bringing those people to justice. Now, Trey Gowdy mentions in this clip, I'm not going to show that portion, but he said that the punishment for unmasking an American citizen's name and then releasing that to the press, I believe, is a 10-year felony prosecution. So clearly this is no small deal, and that's why it's so important that we get this information out to the public. Now, Jim Comey and Trey Gowdy have gone back and forth. Trey Gowdy has it narrowed down to several agencies that are able to do the unmasking, and then he wants to ask about specific people that could have the ability to unmask American citizens. Here's the clip.
The NSA, FBI, CIA, Main Justice. Does the White House have the authority to unmask a U.S. citizen's name?
I think other elements of the government that are consumers of our products can ask the collectors to unmask. The unmasking resides with those who collected the information. And so if Mike Rogers' folks collected something and they send it to me in a report and it says U.S. person number 1, and it's important for the FBI to know who that is, our request will go back to them. The White House can make similar requests of the FBI or of NSA, but they don't on their own collect, and so they can't on their own unmask.
So how would you begin your investigation, assuming for the sake of argument that a U.S. citizen's name appeared in the Washington Post and the New York Times unlawfully? Where would you begin that investigation?
You would start by figuring out, so who are the suspects? Who touched the information that you've concluded ended up unlawfully in the newspaper, and start with that universe, and then use investigative tools and techniques to see if you can eliminate people or include people as more serious suspects.
Do you know whether Director Clapper knew the name of the U.S. citizen that appeared in the New York Times and Washington Post?
I can't say in this forum because, again, I don't want to confirm that there was classified information in the newspaper.
Would he have access to an unmasked name?
In some circumstances, sure. He was the Director of National Intelligence, but I'm not talking about the particular.
Would Director Brennan have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
In some circumstances, yes.
Would National Security Advisor Susan Rice have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
I think yes, in general, and any other national security advisor would, I think, as a matter of their ordinary course of their business.
Would former White House advisor Ben Rhodes have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
I don't know the answer to that.
Would former Attorney General Loretta Lynch have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
In general, yes, as would any Attorney General.
So that would also include acting AG Sally Yates?
Same answer.
Did you?
Now, watching that questioning between Trey Gowdy and James Comey, I have to go back to that infamous meeting in the Oval Office on January 5th of 2017. We had virtually everyone there who was named in the questioning. We had Renegade, we had VP Biden, we had Brennan, we had Clapper, we had Sally Yates, we had Susan Rice, and several other people who are not named but are from the National Security Council. The only person who is not confirmed to have been there was Ben Rhodes. However, I find it very likely that he could have been there, and perhaps Susan Rice didn't specifically mention him because he was lower on the totem pole than everyone else. But when you take into account with these recently declassified documents from the ODNI of Barry specifically telling everyone about the calls between Kislyak and Flynn, Clapper providing that briefing that same day with everyone there in the Oval Office, Barry asking for the Trump administration not to be informed of certain things, and for everyone in that room to continue to report back to him, not to mention the history between Renegade and General Flynn, who Barry apparently had told the incoming administration not to hire, saying that he was not a fan. It seems very likely that one of those people in that meeting probably had something to do with the unmasking of General Flynn and to the subsequent release to the press with that article written by David Ignatius just about a month later. Now, one of those people named in that meeting in Susan Rice's email is Joe Biden. Let's go ahead and take a look at Joe Biden's comments on that meeting itself. Now, just this morning, Joe appeared on Good Morning America, where he was questioned by George Stephanopoulos. He initially claimed to know nothing about the plot to target General Flynn, but then he had to backtrack when he was reminded about that January 5th, 2017 secret Oval Office meeting, which included Comey, all the other heads of the intelligence agency, the Department of Justice, and the NSC. Now, on Tuesday morning, he said initially, "I know nothing." But then, once George Stephanopoulos reminded him that he was in that secret meeting, he let out a very audible sigh once Stephanopoulos began to question him about Obamagate and the targeting of Flynn and his direct knowledge or involvement. So, what do you say about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was anything improper done? Stephanopoulos asked Joe Biden. He said, "I knew nothing about those moves to investigate Flynn, number one, and number two, this is all about a diversion." He tried to say that President Trump is bringing up the investigation into General Flynn as a diversion. If there's anybody who knows anything about diversions, I would say it's Joe and the Dims, but of course, this is not a diversion. Now, let's actually go ahead and take a look at the clip from that interview because it is stunning.
The president said yesterday that that move is justified because President Obama targeted Flynn. He called it, quote, the biggest political crime in U.S. history. Your former Senate colleague Charles Grassley has added that Flynn was entrapped and asked on the Senate floor, what did Obama and Biden know? When did they know it? So what did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, number one. Number two, this is all about diversion. This is the game this guy plays all the time. The country is in crisis. We're in an economic crisis, a health crisis. We're in real trouble. He should stop trying to always divert attention from the real concerns of the American people. The American people are worried with good reason. He has acted irresponsibly from the very beginning. He continues to act irresponsibly. He hasn't done his job. This is all about diverting attention from the horrible way in which he has acted with what he did. We don't have virus because of him, but we have the devastating impact of it because of his lack of a policy, his lack of action. It's all about diversion.
I do want to press that. You say you didn't know anything about it, but you were reported to be at a January 5th, 2017 meeting where you and the president were briefed on the FBI's plan to question Michael Flynn over those conversations he had with the Russian ambassador Kislyak.
No, I thought you asked me whether or not I had anything to do with him being prosecuted.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was aware that they asked for an investigation, but that's all I know about it, and I don't think anything else. Look.
So I want to comment here on Joe Biden saying that President Trump is trying to divert. If anyone knows anything about diversion, it's going to be Joe and his colleagues. For the last 4 years, we have had nothing but endless witch hunt investigations that have gone absolutely nowhere. And now, because the American public are so fed up with the job that the Dems have done here, stalling anything that President Trump wants to do, obstructing for the sake of being obstructionist, the American people are hungry for truth and justice. And anyone who takes a careful look at this situation can clearly see that General Flynn was absolutely railroaded. He had done nothing wrong. He never lied. The people who interviewed him, even though they did it under unfair circumstances, they also knew that he hadn't lied or done anything wrong. This is about the restoration of a great man, a 33-year combat veteran, someone who gave his life for his country, who laid his life on the line on numerous occasions, and now, in the Trump administration, he laid his reputation and his very freedom on the line. The Dems have done irreparable harm to the country and to the fabric of our nation. And yes, Joe, we want to get to the bottom of this, because I don't care that it's a presidential election year. What I care is that you people have attempted to destroy this nation, have attempted to unseat a duly elected president, who have attempted to engage in a coup to subvert the very fabric of our republic, and we are ready to see true justice come in the form of punishment for those people who engaged in this lawless practice. Treason and sedition, that is what the crime is. It's time for us to get justice. Now, Trey Gowdy is one of the players in this movie that many people have differing opinions on. As far as I'm concerned, our favorite Anon thanked him for his service. He's a hero. He did a lot to try to get this information brought to the forefront. And as I always say, there are definitely things taking place behind the scenes that we are not privy to. We don't know what Trey Gowdy was advised to do or say, but Trey Gowdy is an American hero. That is my feelings on the situation. But last Friday, Matt Gaetz, Alan Dershowitz, John Solomon, and Sean Hannity discussed the House Intelligence Committee document release, which proved the former administration had no evidence of Russian collusion on President Trump or anybody in his transition team. The whole thing was a hoax, but they pushed forward with their investigations anyways. They've wasted millions of dollars. And Representative Gaetz had some choice words for Trey Gowdy. He kind of threw him under the bus. He said that Trey Gowdy and Paul Ryan were the ones who would not allow for them to use the subpoena power of Congress to bring people in, while at the same time, the Dems were sending out subpoenas left and right and forcing people to come in and testify. So he said Trey Gowdy would not give us that subpoena power, and the Democrats sent out hundreds of subpoenas. Now, for some people, I think that that kind of lines up with their feelings on Trey Gowdy, and they want to know, where was he? Why was he asleep at the wheel? So we're going to actually listen to Tucker Carlson asking Trey Gowdy about this situation and why he did and said the things that he did, because Trey Gowdy has previously stated that the FBI did their job properly. However, since that time, he has revised his opinion because he got the sauce and he saw that they actually didn't. So let's take a listen.
Congressman, thanks so much for coming on tonight. So,
Yes, sir.
I think that this was, and I just said it from the very beginning, driven by the Obama administration. But it was allowed to metastasize because the Republican-controlled Congress did not stop it. Why do you think that is?
Well, two things. Let me just say, you referenced Susan Rice. You need to read the rest of that email, Tucker, and you can't because it hasn't been declassified. But if you want to fully understand what President Obama knew and what role he played, you need to read and access the rest of Susan Rice's email, and hopefully it'll be declassified one day and you can.
You were briefed by the FBI in 2018, and shortly after that briefing came on this channel to describe your reaction to it. Here's what you said then.
I'll leave it up to them how to brief the president or how to brief his lawyers.
Was that point of view that you're talking about right now, was that strengthened when you went into this briefing last week?
Yes, I am even more convinced that the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do when they got the information they got, and that it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
I remember watching that and thinking, boy, I hope he's right. Do you still feel that way?
Oh, gosh, no. No, that was I made a lot of mistakes in life, relying on briefings and not insisting on the documents. It took me about 3 weeks. I went over to the Department of Justice. I sat there for 4 hours. That's when I saw that Peter Strzok actually initiated and approved Crossfire Hurricane. That's when I saw the exculpatory information on George Papadopoulos. That's when I saw for the very first time that it was the Trump campaign mentioned in that predicate document. They've been telling us all along, Trump's not the target, the campaign's not the target. So, yes, my mistake was relying on the word of the FBI and the DOJ and not insisting on the documents.
Right.
Luckily, it took me about 3 weeks to correct that mistake.
So it took Trey Gowdy 3 weeks to determine that his opinion of the FBI's performance was flawed at best, and perhaps their conduct itself was illegal. I find it interesting that he mentions that email again from Susan Rice. It's good to know that there's more information in it, and I'm hoping that some of the information that DNI Grenell does unredact is going to include further info from that email, and will clarify for us the timeline of what the renegade administration knew and when, and exactly how all of this really did begin. Now, the fact that Trey Gowdy learned of the FBI's behavior 3 weeks later, but we never heard anything from him on it, leads me to believe that there could have been something that happened in between, behind the scenes, that we just have not been told yet. We know that Devin Nunes went to President Trump and told him that he was the subject of an investigation. Trey Gowdy learned that, yes, that was the case, and that was back in 2017. Perhaps Trey Gowdy was told that this needed to play out in the public square. Remember, recently we've been told sometimes you can't just tell people, you have to show them. It was necessary, in my opinion, for the American public to have the full revelation of what happened, how, and who knew what, in the way that we have learned. It had to go from start to finish and be fully revealed in the public's consciousness so they could learn just how unfairly the president was treated, how unfairly General Michael Flynn was treated, and how unfairly all of the other people who've been caught up in this investigation have been treated. And it's more than just being unfair. It is the unlawful targeting of American citizens. It is the use of the full weight and power of the United States government, the Department of Justice, the investigatory powers of the FBI that were used to target these American citizens and try to take down a duly elected president of the United States. This criminal behavior is what we are working to undo and to make sure never happens again. In order for that to be the case, every single American must understand just how awful and illegal the conduct of its own government was. Now, just a couple of quick ones to end this out. Lisa Page had a lawsuit against the DOJ because she had been fired. Well, that lawsuit was thrown out of court. It was called meritless. It said that there was innuendo in her lawsuit. It had rank speculation, fatal flaws, and she was left with no valid argument. And the rest is just noise. Lisa Page's frivolous lawsuit has been thrown out, and with that, I think the next time we see her in court, she's going to be wearing shackles. And another sensitive target, Lindsey Graham, says he does plan to hold Senate hearings on the Flynn case in early June. And although Lindsey Graham doesn't always necessarily live up to his promise, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what these Senate hearings bring, who is questioned, and who says what. All right, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. There have been an incredible amount of posts recently, and if you want to catch up on our coverage on the posts, tune in to Quarantine at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. But a good one from yesterday said, "Rain is coming, bring the pain, you'll know when." That was in response to an Anon asking for the go order. You guys, we continue daily to get more revelations about what happened and just how deep this corruption ran. You can bet, I am betting on it myself, we are going to see the full revelation come in the public awareness very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled, tune into this program, and I'll continue to report on a daily basis. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. It's Red Pill. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody that has helped to support the channel. If you'd like to get involved, you can go ahead and check the show notes in the pinned comment and the description. There's always good information in there. I've got a couple of backup channels. I ask that you go ahead and subscribe to them because if anything does happen here, I will start publishing there. And if you want things like merchandise or anything else, there is a bunch of information that you can find right below this video. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.